As you may have noticed, you can watch Freedom Rocks for free on RCTV or on YouTube, but it takes money to produce good quality TV shows. You can support Freedom Rocks by shopping at our Cafe Press shop. There you can find t-shirts for men and women, tote and gym bags, coffee mugs, beer steins, food and beverage thermoses, and a bunch of other items Cafe Press offers. You can find our shop at cafepress.com/freedomrocks, all lowercase and no apostrophe.
Hello, welcome to Freedom Rocks. This is a libertarian-oriented program. The director is Max Kessler, and we're here today to interview Jim Rosenbeck. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Mark.
Jim is a candidate for the Batavia City Council. I understand you've had some experience of running around collecting petitions, but before we get into that, I'd like to ask you a little bit about your background, where'd you work, family life, and then such like that. Could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Mark. Be happy to. First, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. I really do appreciate it. I'm a local guy. Grew up in Orleans County in Medina. Lived in Genesee County in the city of Batavia now for 27 years. Live with my wife, Debbie. We've been married, actually, as of August 8th, 32 years. So a long time together. And we have three grown children who also live in the city of Batavia. And all three of them are libertarians also. I'm a retired high school counselor. Worked at Pembroke High School for about the last 20 years. Of my career. For people who don't know, that's in Genesee County, near the Erie County line. Very small school district. Great career. Really enjoyed it. I've been retired now a couple of years. I've been an active libertarian for many years, but this is my first foray into politics.
Okay. So, what made you decide to get involved actively as a candidate?
Well, I quite frankly didn't anticipate that I would initially. I met with our Genesee County Chair, Phil Rickey, back in December. There wasn't a party in Genesee County, as you know. We seceded from the Greater Rochester Libertarian Party. That began with an initial meeting with Phil and I at a coffee shop in Batavia back in December. We organized an initial meeting in January that you were at the coffee shop, and that became the impetus for developing the Genesee County Libertarian Party. Our goal was to run candidates this year, and I was perfectly fine with being behind the scenes and helping successfully run a candidate in Genesee County. It's after a few months and nobody sort of volunteered to do it. I said, well, hey, I want somebody to run and I think I can do a good job. So I threw my hat in the ring and here I am now a few months later. Okay.
So you've had a little bit of experience electioneering and collecting signatures on petitions.
Well, this is my first experience actually doing petitioning. So it's the first time I've run for office, and we are actually going to file petitions tomorrow with the Genesee County Board of Elections. We're running or filing independent candidate petitions. Lisa Whitehead, the other Libertarian candidate, and I, knocked on doors throughout the city of Batavia. About 8,500 voters in the city of Batavia. And quite a few of them are active voters. I believe in 2012, something in the area of 5,500 of those 8,500 actually voted, which is a pretty good percentage. But back to your point, I have been campaigning, talking with people, knocking on doors, and just really it's been, although I was a little concerned because I'd never done that before, I was really just very, very grateful to have had the opportunity to meet with people. And
are the people generally hostile or friendly or receptive or what?
Well, I expected that at least once I'd have somebody kick me off their porch and tell me But it was nothing like that. People were terribly gracious and went out of their way. People would leave their dinner tables. If I was there in the evening, people would be grilling out and, take time out from grilling their dinners to come and talk with me. And, people, what I found, a few things that I really observed talking with people. One is that they are gracious. They are happy that anybody actually comes to their door and asks them what they think of the city and what they would like to see changed. They genuinely care about their neighborhoods. What I did find is that not too many people go and knock on doors. I asked people, has anybody been here petitioning and asking for signatures? And these are Democrats, Republicans, and independents. And very, very few of them were visited at all by any of the Democrats or Republicans. And so, like I said, they were genuinely happy that somebody stopped to see them. Mm-hmm. My other observation is that people feel a disconnect with local government. There's some real issues of trust that I think need to be restored between the people and local city government. And that's pretty much what I'm running on, having a little more transparency, a lot more transparency in local government, and reestablishing a connection and trust with the people in the community.
Good. When you were out campaigning, I campaigned and went door to door. I had an issue with dogs. Is there any dog problem in the Batavia area, or is because you're in the city, is a dog issue pretty much under control?
Well, whenever you walk up to somebody's door and there's a big dog on the other side, the dog issue is never under control. But I'm a dog person. I like dogs. I've got 2 dogs myself. I wasn't terribly concerned. Yeah, I know that dogs are going to be a little territorial, but people were good with their dogs. I didn't get chased off any porches by dogs, and no.
Did you campaign and solicit signatures just going door to door? Did you go to events also, or?
It was almost exclusively door to door.
Okay.
And a handful of people. Lisa Whitehead and myself. We carried petitions with both of our names on them, and then we had friends, some of the local party members that went around, but. I think I probably knocked on something in the area of, 500 doors in the city, maybe a little more even. Mm-hmm. I'm just shamelessly guessing at that number, but okay. I would say at least 500.
Now, how many signatures did you actually need in order to have a sufficient number? What's the minimum?
Well, the minimum number of signatures that we needed was 192. We will file tomorrow with something in the area of 460 signatures.
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah. That's a good drive. Okay, let's get to some of the issues.
Okay.
City of Batavia. There's no problems in the city of Batavia to address either?
Well, let me just take a step back for a moment, Mark, and tell you that I do attend the city council meetings, so pretty regularly. I think I told you earlier, I'm probably there 75-80% of the time, and have been doing that since early this year. And I want to say that I really believe that the people who serve on the council, there are 9 people that serve on council.
Okay, before we get into that, let's just stop for a quick break, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Did you know high-quality versions of all episodes of Freedom Rocks are available on DVD? Each DVD contains 3 episodes for just $15. We also have specials that aren't on RCTV or YouTube. You can find links to all of our DVDs on the Freedom Rocks website, freedomrocks.cybermansoftware.com.
Welcome back. We're talking with Jim Rosenbeck, the Libertarian candidate for the City Council in the City of Batavia. Welcome, Jim, again. And just before the break, you were talking about the City Council and some of the people there.
Right. What I wanted to say, you had asked me, Mark, about issues in the city and whether there were issues. And obviously, as with any city, there are always issues. But I'd like to preface that by saying that I know a lot of the people that serve on City Council, and I've observed all of them, and I really do believe that they are well-meaning, good people who care about the city. So my campaign is not at all about vilifying the people that serve. I take issues with their position sometimes. I think that there's been a lack of transparency about some of the things they've tried to accomplish. And I think there have been, from what people tell me in the community, a lack of communication. People have called, people have emailed and not gotten responses. So those are some of the issues that I want to address. You had asked me earlier why I decided to run. And that decision was made, probably, I don't know, April-ish perhaps. But it really, the impetus for that, other than nobody else stepping forward in the party and indicating that they wanted to, was an issue in the city of Batavia regarding trash removal. We have a unique situation, or had a unique situation in the city, where our local Genesee County ARC had a contract with the city to pick up trash and recyclables. And our contract with ARC was expiring. And the city manager put out a new proposal with specific specifications for garbage vendors to bid on the contract. Now, ARC was a preferred vendor serving a handicapped population, and I don't want to speak for the city manager, but I believe there may have been a certain feeling like they were locked into having to use that service with ARC. So the specifications for the new contract to go from 2013 through the next few years changed the terms so that anybody bidding would have to move from the old style garbage cans and people on the back of the truck lifting the garbage cans up and dumping the garbage into a big truck to a more automated system where we would have cans that would be put into a lift and the lift would dump the refuse into the garbage trucks. There was some disagreement between ARC and our city manager and council about whether they could meet the specifications. Long story short, the city manager and council decided to go with another firm for garbage, and it was done in sort of a rush manner, upsetting a lot of people who were very close and hold the mission of ARC dear to their hearts, resulting in a public hearing where hundreds of people showed up at city council, felt they had been betrayed, felt that the city was getting rid of, going to risk losing jobs for local people to hire a company from outside the county. Ultimately, the city backed off their decision, which, by the way, would have involved the city producing or providing garbage cans, providing meaning we'll pay for them as taxpayers, with tracking chips in them because the city was going to make a large purchase of garbage containers that they were going to have to protect the investment in. So we were going to have electronic tracking chips in our local garbage cans, and you had to buy them. So if you had your garbage can from Walmart or Value or where have you, well, you can keep that in your garage because the city is now going to issue a new garbage can with a tracking chip.
Sounds expensive.
Yeah, it sounds expensive to me too. In case somebody steals it, they can track it. I don't know. That seemed really bizarre to me and very costly. So
I haven't seen an aftermarket for trash cans.
No, neither have I. Yeah. So, anyways, the city, ultimately saw the wisdom in getting out of the garbage business altogether, reducing the city tax assessment by 10%. So 10% of our city tax bill was trash removal. So now that 10%, you can use that money to purchase your own trash removal. Ultimately, ARC decided to stay in the trash removal business. My wife and I believe in that mission. Now of our own free choice, we can choose to continue our contract with them. But also, a couple other businesses have emerged. So we have a couple new local private businesses generating jobs and income and competition for a service in the city. They're surviving. ARC is surviving and expanding, I understand, into the town of Batavia to pick up new business. And the people that cried that the sky would fall and garbage would pile up on the streets.
Yeah, I heard some rumors.
Yeah, none of that happened. Imagine that. The free market worked.
Imagine that, like New York City.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that really was probably the one issue that I thought we were so off base as a city on, and the people were so disenfranchised by the process that I felt really I wanted to get into the race based on that alone.
Okay, that sounded like a very interesting scenario or sequence of events to emphasize the importance of capitalism in a city.
Right.
But what other issues are there in Batavia? I'm sure you have others.
Well, you know, that was probably the main issue of the spring, but there were several issues that occurred that I think we could have, we may have handled differently. In talking about issues of transparency, I was on the city website about a month ago now, and I was looking at what the agenda would be for the city council meeting that night. And I see on the homepage of Batavia City Council an advertisement, a job advertisement for a consultant/community organizer. So I said, that's curious. I've been going to these meetings, and I don't remember that ever coming up in public discussion. So I went back to, and all the agendas for meetings going back to the beginning of the fiscal year in March are posted online. I went back, and I didn't see where that's specifically listed as a discussion item. Now, perhaps it was discussed as part of a proposal or recommendation of some subcommittee. I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but never was that specifically listed as an item for discussion. But now we're hiring this fall, we will be hiring a consultant/community organizer whose job it will be to help the people of the city of Batavia identify what neighborhood they live in, provide block parties for those people, garden tours, and porch painting contests. And I believe the salary is $24,000 for that.
Plus expenses, I'm sure.
And there is also built into that some incentive. If you do a good job, you could get paid a little bit more. Now, I was told when I spoke at City Council about that, well, it's only a consultant position, it's only for 1 year, and the idea is to make it sustainable by finding people in the wards, the city wards, who would then take on these roles as a volunteer and sustain it. Well, I suggested to City Council that what better people than you in each of your wards? You're the most readily recognizable. You're the leaders in your wards. Why don't you take the ball and do this? But that didn't go over real well.
Who would have the authority to hire somebody like that? Well,
the council would ultimately need to approve that.
So theoretically, the council approved it at some point, or
yes.
they approved to delegate this to some agency? Well,
my understanding, and again, I'm still a little in the dark, and I think a lot of people are in the dark about it, because as I went around petitioning, I asked people if they were aware of it, and 9 out of 10 people were not aware of it at all. My understanding of how the process works is that ultimately, if the city is going to hire any new position, that position has to be approved by the council. Now, when it gets voted on, is there transparency? Does it come up as voting on hiring a consultant, or does it come up as approving the recommendations of such and such committee? I'm not sure. But again, the issue becomes transparency. I don't think people have an opportunity. I try to be informed. I mean, I didn't feel like I had an opportunity to comment on that until after the decision had been made. So if in my case, where I'm trying to stay informed, I miss something like that, what happens to the people that don't come to meetings, who don't look at agendas?
Yeah, I would never have heard anything about that, because I don't go to those meetings. Mm-hmm. But that brings us to a different topic, but very closely related. I understand there's a lot of vacant homes in Batavia, and we have an issue with landlords. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that was an issue that people in their neighborhoods are very passionate about houses that absentee landlords hadn't properly, in their opinion, properly taken care of, or houses that have been abandoned.
Let me interrupt you right here. We're a little late for a break.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Did you know Freedom Rocks has swag? You can help stimulate the economy and show how much you like Freedom Rocks at the same time. We've got t-shirts for men and women. We've got coffee mugs and beer steins. We've got food and beverage thermoses. You can get your own Freedom Rocks swag with the show logo, as seen in the opening title of the show, right here at our Cafe Press Shop. That's cafepress.com/freedomrocks.
And we're back, and we're talking to Jim Rosenbeck, the Libertarian candidate for the City Council in the City of Batavia. Jim, we were talking a little bit about the neighborhoods and the issues in terms of the vacant homes and landlords. Could you make some comments about that?
Sure. What I was saying before the break, Mark, is that people really do care about their neighborhoods, and that's obviously a good thing. And City Council and the City Manager, I believe, care too. I just took issue with one of their ideas they floated out to the public a couple months back, and the idea came up of licensing our landlords in the city and then holding them accountable for the behavior of their tenants, which I totally opposed. I don't want to be held accountable for your behavior. I don't want you to be held accountable for my behavior. And I don't know why we need to set up a whole new bureaucracy, another layer of government dedicated to licensing private citizens who own their own homes. Basically, that was not well received at all. People opposed it and they backed off it. But
what were they proposing to do if they're going to make the landlord responsible? What would they do? Punish them or something?
Well, what would happen is if there were police calls to your property and your tenants were misbehaving, then you would get a warning. After the first warning, you'd get a fine. Then you'd get a more severe fine.
The landlord would get a fine.
The landlord would get a fine for the tenant's behavior. And ultimately, I guess if you're licensing and providing your permission, the city's approval for somebody to own and rent their property, ultimately, I guess, then that gives the city permission to retract that approval. So it's coercive, and I don't think the proper role of government at all.
I agree with you there. Okay. There were other issues, though, in terms of Batavia. You had some concerns with the IDAs, the use of the, basically the private commercial property?
Well, Genesee County Economic Development Corporation has been in the news a lot lately in the county, and the gentleman who's the CEO of Genesee County Economic Development, you may have seen in the papers, made something in excess of $300,000, I believe, in 2012. And to date, the job that he's created for himself is the single best job that's been created by Genesee County Economic Development. We have a branch of that in the city of Batavia called BID, Batavia Industrial Development. I'm not quite sure what BID has done to help the community. We did bring in the coffee shop that's about 4 or 5 years ago, and we had one business that I know that's moved from the east side of town into the center of town, but I don't think we've gotten a lot of bang for our buck from that. And I'm not a big fan, as you know, of crony capitalism, and I think pretty much that's what our EDCs are. And I oppose the idea that we should choose people that are going to win and get tax abatement, and people are going to lose and not get it. Quite interestingly, our Genesee County EDC just approved tax abatement for a company that's going to retrofit one of their buildings for a Dick's Sporting Goods to come into the town.
Yes, I heard about that.
No problem at all with Dick's. I shop at Dick's, but I don't think they need tax abatement to come in. Interestingly, right after that announcement, about a month ago, a local sporting goods store, Fisher Sports, in the city of Batavia, local-owned business, located downtown, has announced it's going out of business in part because of taxes and their taxes that they're paying in the city being used to provide subsidies for corporate America.
Right. Isn't that really a definition of tyranny when you take from one and give to another?
Well, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you're on the receiving end, like the $300,000 job as opposed to the minimum wage job that you advocate everybody else take.
Right.
So I can see you have your work cut out for you. Are there any particular issues you plan on working on specifically after you get in office?
Well, I don't... what I've told people as I've been campaigning and petitioning is that I'm not promising anybody any particular results, because that would be foolish. I would be one of 9 people on city council if elected.
Well, transparency is definitely one of the issues.
Transparency is really the issue. And I would use as my model the congressman from Michigan, Justin Amash, who has been very transparent. If you go on his website, he'll tell you his understanding of an issue, his intention of how he'll vote, and you have a chance to have a dialogue with him beforehand. I think in order to restore some trust between people and local city government in Batavia, we need that sort of model, and that has been my promise to people that I will communicate with you. I'm a professional communicator. That's what I did my entire career. I respect people's opinion. I will involve people. I'll let people know my understanding, which may be right or wrong. If you take issue with it, you can come back to me and say, Rosenbeck, I think that's stupid, and here's why, and we can talk about it before I vote. Imagine that, before I vote.
Yeah, wow. That would really be different.
Yeah.
We have to wrap this up. At the end of the last break, I was supposed to remind you that Freedom Rocks is a cable access station, and as a result, we don't get Nielsen ratings unless you tell us that you're watching. We don't know you're watching. So visit our website, freedomrocks.cybermansoftware.com, and let us know what you think. Look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, Jim, for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Have you ever played WTF Sudoku?
You mean WTF as in what the f***?
Yes.
What the f*** is so all-fired? What the f*** about Sudoku?
Regular Sudoku is played on a 9x9 grid with exactly one of every digit 1 through 9 in every row, column, and 3x3 grid.
So what?
WTF Sudoku is played on a 25x25 grid with exactly one of every letter A through Y in every row, column, and 5x5 group.
WTF. How can I play WTF Sudoku?
You can play it online at www.cybermansoftware.com/games. You can also buy a book of puzzles on Amazon.com. Just search for WTF Sudoku.
Book? You mean on paper?
Yes, that's correct.
So that's www.cybermansoftware.com/games or by searching for WTF Sudoku on Amazon.com?
Yes.